Folks that don't know, I'm Brother Jason Seals. I am an African American Studies instructor here at Merritt College. And I really appreciate everybody being here today because I thought it was important that if we were creating our events for the month of Black History, it was important for us to do some celebration. And I feel like part of what we need to celebrate is Black love, right? So can we give it up for Black love? Yeah. What I did was I put together a panel so we can begin to talk about Black love and Black relationships. And I tried to put together a diverse panel of folks that I knew, folks that I felt like can bring us in conversation. So we have some people that's on this panel that's been married for a long time, for a short period of time, folks that are new in their relationships, and folks old in their relationship. And I think that it's important to have that dialogue. In my Black family class, one of the things that we do is we talk about Black relationships. But there was a time period in this society where literally 75% of Black children were born in two-parent households, right? And so that number has decreased dramatically. And let's have some honest conversation, not just in terms of social ills that have impacted us. Some of us don't feel the love where we are actually wanting to be in relationship with folks that look like us, okay? And so in this day and age, you have to have a conversation about it. We live in a place like Oakland where it's quote-unquote really diverse, and we see a lot of brothers dating outside of the race. We see a lot of sisters dating outside of their race. And so I think it's important for us to have a conversation about, well, why should we date outside of our race, or why should we marry somebody, and talk about that in detail. So I put together this panel. So let's get into the stuff that I feel like is the struggle, which is conflict, right? I want you all to share with us, how do you all deal with conflict from something very simple to maybe something serious? I remember I spoke with Brother Q, and he always told this story about the shampoo, right? The shampoo story about who's supposed to buy the shampoo. No. You don't remember the story?
Black too.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell the story.
No, I remember the story. I remember the story better than you.
I don't remember this.
That's probably good then, you don't remember. But let's start off there in terms of like, how do you all deal with conflict? Because I think that's a skill that people need to be able to sustain relationships.
Well, when first I was asked to go to anger management, and that was probably the best thing that happened. So
she asked you to go to anger management?
Yeah, you know, she was saying, you got anger issues. I was like, no, I don't. So it was, you know, but it was actually a good thing. So I was in denial about that. So there was a lot that had to deal with it. And I think what happens is, what we don't realize is how much baggage we bring to a relationship. So all of that stuff from the, previous marriage, and you know, my former wife got hooked on crack, and I was a codependent through that whole thing. We, I raised her kids, through that whole piece. We're grown now, but we bring all of that, into the relationship. So sometimes we don't get in the mirror and really see how we look, so we can have this look on the face and what have you. So everything was coming out like that. So we didn't have a lot of conflicts, but when we had conflicts, they would be major. Because, as you know, you all know her, she's very, very intelligent, and she can be very, cutting. Sometimes some things that you say be like, why do you say that? It cuts deeply. And so I'm the kind of person I hold back, and I hold a lot of things in. But what it really did for me, and really looking at that, and really going to anger management training, which I teach now, is that there's ways of handling conflict, and most of it's around empathy, around really understanding your partner. But like Terrence was saying, there are some things that are just so good that they overwhelm the bad. So I always have to tell myself, when I'm in conflict, what would my life be like without this person in my life? And I would not want to live that life without her in the life. That would be such a huge gap. So I have to say, is this, these are conversations I have to have with myself. Is this a deal breaker? Is this something that I want to go to the mat over? Is this about my ego? So it's a lot of conversation I have with myself. And then there's times when I just won't engage, or there's times when we just give each other space, where we just won't talk for a little while. And I don't like that. You know what I mean? I don't want to talk about stuff, or to listen to her talk. You know what I mean? When she stops talking, I was like, yeah, here we go again. So sometimes I'll just say, look, can we just skip to the healing part? You'll be like, no, we have to resolve these issues. So it's really looking at I look at what I stand to lose in conflict. So when every conflict comes up, we really look at, these are not huge conflicts at times. Sometimes there are big pieces that can be handled, can be worked. But I think if you love somebody, you work, you're able to step back, you're able to take a look at yourself, you're able to look at, what really means something to you, what is precious to you. And so we only have so much time. So I said to myself, we only have so much time on this earth, and do we want to waste the time in these arguments? But as they come up, and they haven't, we've got to the point now, I guess we're older now, we've got to the point where a lot of times it's just not worth it. So it's a lot of things that don't come up at all. So it's a lot less time. We do more laughing and joking and wrestling, and, sometimes she hurts me. women be like, you breaking my finger, be like, man up. Be like, I hate you. But, so there's a lot more fun involved than it is conflict. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think my situation is interesting and unique because we've been married for almost 7 years, but we have been together almost 14 or 15 years, something like that. We met freshman year of college. So I think for us, I see conflict as, what happens before the conflict and what happens after. But we grew up together, like literally, like we went through that whole college experience together. So we did a lot of growing together. And a lot of the conflict we had back then, it was stupid stuff, And again, I just go back to community. I remember one time I got really pissed off over stupid stuff. We you're growing together, and so you're young and your ego is out of control as male and woman. Your both egos are out of control. And so some of the big blow-ups that we had were around really stupid things, like I would say, don't do this, and she would do that, and I would get pissed off because she didn't listen to me or whatever. But I remember once I got really, really angry. I don't even remember what it was about, but I got really, really angry. And I was like, I ain't fucking with you no more. I mean, I'm not messing with you no more. And I kind of went away, and I went around campus. And then her friends were talking to her, my friends was talking to me, and it was like, man, she loved you, and you love her. Y'all need to stop. It's on some stupid stuff. This ain't even that serious. And you just want to be mad at the moment. But my friend was saying, bruh, you love her. And I was like, you're right, you're not good. This is stupid. But, that community, they were interested in our love and preserving our love because they cared for both of us. So rather than feel like, girl, yeah, he shouldn't have said what he said, and my dude's like, oh man, it's a hell of other girls out here, bro. You giving all these girls together, They didn't do that. They did other stuff, It was like, nah, y'all really love each other, and we want to see y'all together. So that was then at that early development stage. I think community helped, having just good people around us helped us deal with some of the stupidity of just, young age. And then as we got older, the conflicts became less hard to manage, we do a lot of stuff that prevent conflict. We really listen to each other. I think you can prevent a lot of conflict by just really listening to each other and kind of like what you were saying, having empathy for one another. Okay, how does she see it, or let me think about how she sees what's happening. From her perspective, and let me see what am I doing that's not sensitive in this situation. And then when the conflict happens, you can't avoid it. It happens. Then it's what you do afterward. Afterward, you got to give each other space. You can talk through things. You just got to kind of know your partner, whatever works for them and what works for you. And then always talking about it afterwards. Having a difficult conversation, having enough humility to say I was wrong, or I didn't really mean it that way, or and then being trusting each other enough to say how you felt in the moment, and being vulnerable. Well, you said something and that hurt my feelings, and stuff like that. So it's that pre-thing where you can really prevent it by just listening. Then some conflicts are just unavoidable because you're just people and you exist together, and there's always going to be conflict. And then afterwards is how you figure it out, how you make it right, You don't always have to, be right, but, you always want to make it right.
You don't have to be right, but you want to make it right.
Right.
Remember that. Note-taking time.
I guess just to chime off some of the things that you said, you both have said, I think for me, one of the important things was allowing myself to be vulnerable. I built up a lot of walls over time for different reasons, and your ego gets in the way, So if there were things that we were arguing about, sometimes it would just take me to settle down and say, hey, that's my ego in the way. And allowing myself to say, you know, this is why my feelings are hurt. Not, I'm mad at you, I'm pissed off at you, you suck, or things that blame him, but really explaining, this is what happened, and this is why I feel so hurt. And then I think it allows him the space to come back and say, oh, I didn't mean that, or that wasn't my intention, or I apologize. So really being able to kind of work through it. We have a lot of fun together, so I think we enjoy being in the state of fun. We both want to be there. We don't want to argue. So I don't know. For me, I just think it's about being vulnerable. A lot of and turning the cheek on things that don't matter. You start to realize, like, this is not important that he didn't turn the dishwasher on. It's just not important. I don't care. We don't have clean dishes, but I don't care.
Current events. Thank you, man.
Dishwasher last night, brother?
Yeah, I just had to turn a little down.
He'll pack it full, but not turn it on.
Busy. No, so I think it's deciding, well, understanding, and it hasn't always been that way. When we first, during the rough times, it was like war. You know, when we go at it, we go at it. And then just determining the difference between a conflict and a disagreement. You know, sometimes we disagree on some things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a conflict. And learn each other's styles, and we're still growing. When we look at a big scale and we plan to be married for 70 plus more years, we're only scratching the surface. So we're still learning each other, and it's all about that learning and being in that humble state of, hey, I'm learning, and learning her style. She's learning my style. She's very vocal. I'm very, you know, I'm kind of passive sometimes. You know, I kind of choose my battles. I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you about this, you know, but at the end of the day, that's not the way to approach it because she wants to talk about it. So I have to kind of meet halfway and you know, be willing to just bend and say, you know, even though this is my style of dealing with disagreements or conflicts, I understand this is her style and we're going to meet in the middle. And really just trusting, you know, trusting that at the end of the day, we're going to come to a solution. It's through conflicts that I love her more, because I'm like, yeah, she goes to war. I want her on my side. You know what I'm saying? So this is my, you know, if it's time to be on the battlefield, I want this woman next to me. So, and I would have never known that unless we've taken it to that level. And at the end of the day, I think as long as we learn from it, it's like you say, it was after the conflict. If we sit there and we disagree and we fight, and then we'll keep on fighting about it, it keeps reoccurring. I mean, maybe a couple more times I may forget to turn on the dishwasher, but at the end of the day, you know, it's still a learning process. And I think that's how we deal with conflicts, is just remember this is going to be a growth, you know, experience for us to grow from.
One thing, and like we were saying, Quentin, we have a strong family network too. Mm-hmm. When we have had conflicts, you know, my father, my aunt, his family, everybody's like there to support us and say, no, you can't get a divorce. No, you can't, you know, you're in this, you guys are going to talk about it. Here are some resources, here are some counselors you can go to, but you're in this. So I think the support system is important as well.
I'd say a couple things. Conflict is inevitable, and it's something that you figure out early on what your conflict style is compared to your partners, and how you resolve conflicts and you create patterns. So I'm kind of a nerd, so I kind of studied it like a scientist. This is what gets me reactive, you know, and I learned a lot about my ego, my own ego, and kind of related all feelings of frustration or conflict and rooting it to my ego, and then trying to learn about myself. But without fail, the number one thing for us in our community, because we have a lot of support, but for us, it was about keeping it to ourselves. We, you know, you've never heard me talk about my wife, you know, and that was just something that, it minimizes the opportunity. It's great if you have support and you get that support, but we just minimized that risk and had it be something that you wouldn't even know. We would be all in public, oh, hey, yeah. Go home, still ain't speaking to you. You know, and it would be like that for a minute sometimes, you know. But that was the first few years, first 2, 3, 4 years, and then we kind of got the hang of it, and I knew how to like avoid some of that stuff, but I still forget to turn on the dishwasher or, you know, put the clothes in the dryer. But we roll from that point a lot smoother, and so it's just about when conflict does arise, don't trip. Okay, my bad. Let's move forward. And then the last piece is reflecting and communicating about how you handled it or how you think your partner mishandled it on the cool times, in between conflict. Conflict's over, laughing and playing. Yeah, baby, but you know, last time, look, this is how I feel. When this happens, this is why I reacted that way. But it's good, you know, and you just can talk it through in a less contentious moment when y'all are cool and chilling. Don't go too far, because then you're gonna go back down that road. But you know, just touch and go, just like boom. I just, you know, gonna throw that out there, a little sprinkle, and just, you gotta be creative. You just gotta have a game. You gotta like really think like, this is important to me. This is my investment. Like, you know, I think about my relationship now with my wife. We got 2 kids. It's like, would I give up on myself? At what point would I say, I'm gonna divorce myself? I'm gonna quit myself. I'm gonna leave myself, right? It's a ludicrous concept, and that's the same way I feel about my wife, because it's like, we are a partnership, you know, so that's how you gotta approach it.
That's right. Appreciate that. So I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to go into, so everybody's partner up here is of African ancestry, and I think it's really interesting now in this day and age where you see more of interracial dating happening, and to me, there's a list of umpteen reasons why black men won't date or decide to marry black women, and black women are getting married at later ages. Average white woman gets married at 24, average black woman gets married at 34, if at all. And I just want to know from the panel, like, was it a conscious choice to marry someone of African ancestry? And if so, why? Start on Michelle's side?
Yeah, that was the point. So part of my selection process and us choosing each other was me being clear years in advance. My brother was in an interracial relationship, so I didn't have a problem with that. But I purposely chose to have a relationship with somebody of African descent, not because of racism, not to counter the psychological harm that Africans have against themselves, the self-hate, because I was aware of all of that in 18, 19, 20, but because having had dated different ethnicities, I was like, African women are the best. Like, you know, it was just like, it was this vibe, this spiritual connection that was just a lot stronger. You know, you can't just have the physical, you have to have the spiritual and the mental and the emotional as well. And for me, that was what I got with a black woman.
The topic of interracial dating is very sensitive in my household now. Tayati feels very strong about black love. I have a child from a previous relationship from a white woman. And that's how I know firsthand that, you know, because I've been in a relationship with different nationalities, that I've never felt so good in a relationship that I have been with Tayati. You know, I feel stronger. And my mother would tell me that. She was like, son, you know, this girl doesn't have, you know, and that's her perspective, and I feel it, I know it, but she said, this girl doesn't have what it takes to make you thrive as a strong black man. You know, she was speaking about my daughter's mother. And so, you know, she actually told her that, you know, And
she told the white woman that?
yeah. She told her that. She's like, you don't have, yeah. And so just kind of going through that experience and understanding the cultural differences, you know, what's important, what's manifested, you know, through our relationship, and it just wasn't, it didn't seem real, you know. I just kind of speaking from my experience, it just didn't seem real, it wasn't right. And now that I have a relationship where everything that it makes me feel complete, you know, and she makes me feel strong, I feel better, you know. I feel like every day is a brand new day of just gratitude and love, and just, you know, I'm learning more about my Africanism through her. And I think that type of growth can only be, you know, with a sister, you know, and we can't get that from anywhere else. You know, she's my God, she's my earth. Well, you know, just figuratively speaking. And so, and that's how I know, just kind of through experience, you know, and just being out in the world and dabbling. But at the end of the day, just knowing, you know, that her love for me is solid. Just kind of like my mother's love for me, you know, is just that undeniable, and I feel that.
For me, I grew up in a very Afrocentric home. My mother is half white, and my stepmother, they're both half white. However, they are black women, strong, revolutionaries, and so the preschool I went to was an Afrocentric preschool. I mean, it was just from the time I was very, very little, I was taught to just love who I am and my people and who we are. And I lived in LA for a long time, and, you know, dated other people and hung out, but this is where I feel at home, is in a black household, in a black home. There are things that I'm gonna support or care about in life, or maybe battles I wanna fight that I don't feel someone from another race could support me in either. So for me, I always knew, I believe, like he said, black love.
Yeah, I mean, I like to thank the city of Cleveland, Ohio, and the segregation there, because it was there.
Thank segregation.
I like to thank segregation in Cleveland, Ohio. For those of you who don't know, Cleveland is one of the most segregated cities in the country. And my folks came up from Tennessee, my grandparents, and I just grew up in an all-black community. And so as you develop your identity, that's who's. I mean, you date who you're around. You know what I mean? Like, you don't, like, I don't think brothers, you know, initially just jump and go find the closest white person outside their city. You know, a lot of folks grow up in relation to other people, and that's who you date. But for me, my neighborhood was all black, my school was all black, my church was all black, my grocery store was, I mean, everything was all black. And so I think from early on, I just developed an appreciation for blackness. And I never, like, as I got older, some of my family members moved around, like my cousins, they moved to a suburb right outside of Cleveland, and they started to date white women and whatnot, and I always looked at them like they were doing something less than. Like, why are you cheating yourself? Like, there's a lot of black girls over here, and we actually used to make fun of them, like, y'all stupid, but, you know, for me, it never was really a choice or an option. It's just always, my beauty standards were always black, in the diversity that is black, from dark to light, you know, small to bigger. I mean, I just love black women at the utmost. And yeah, I mean, then, you know, like, as I got older, like, it was funny, like, when I was going away to college, you know, the joke was, because I was like one of the few in my age group to go. I got a really big family, lots of cousins. And so, like, my uncle and my grandma, I remember my grandma was like, she said, don't come back with no white woman. And I was like, okay, like, it's not gonna happen. And then my uncle was like, oh, you going up there, you gonna come back with a white woman. I was like, what are they tripping on? Like, nah, that's not gonna happen. Like, I'm going to college for black women, not just any woman. So, yeah, I just think for me, it was just always it's just part of who I am and my makeup. Maybe if I was raised somewhere that was less segregated, maybe it would be a different experience. But I'm happy for my experience. Not the segregation necessarily, but the fact that I grew up in an all-black community.
I think, I got a chance to meet my great-grandmother. I was raised by my grandmother, and my mother was in my life. So I thought she was just the most beautiful woman, and my sisters and what have you. So I think my standard of beauty has always been around black women, just beautiful. But the other side of it is that sensual. There's a sensuality I think that black women have that is just, it's a turn on. And so we talk about like the scent of a woman. So, so I had this habit of telling people, "Damn, you smell good." And it was, so it was that sensitivity. So that's always been there. So I never dated outside of black women. Never. It's been good to me.
So I want to get some perspective in terms of, I guess, the unhealthiness that tends to be present in our community, or the lack of connectivity. I just want to hear from you. How do you think we all address? We're going to start with one cultural piece and go move to another culture. We're going to start with this cultural piece around being single. I think people have acquired like this badge of honor from being single. You hear people like really excited about being single, and it's almost like this thing like people prefer to be single than to be married or to be in a relationship. I just want to kind of hear how people feel about that. I mean, it's interesting now because when you look on social media, you deal with people and their friends. A lot of people actually celebrating it as though there's something very negative about marriage and relationships.
So I thought this was really interesting. I know y'all on social media too. Did y'all see the story about the woman who married herself?
Yeah.
Y'all saw that? I was like, wow, that's really interesting and deep and kind of weird to me. But somebody married herself. Like, I don't know why I didn't really read the story, but I was like, wow, like that's where we're at. It was a black woman. And I thought a whole bunch of stuff, but I didn't really read into it. But on this topic, I think at the end of the day, we live in America, and this is a white country, and the predominant culture here is a European culture, and that is a culture of individuality. And that says you can do whatever you want by yourself. The highest form of living is to live only for your own person and the things that make you happy, forget whatever, So we live in this I culture right now. Like, there's no secret. Like, we all have an iPhone, you got an iPad, you got an iMac, you got a My Touch, you got a My This, you got all of these different things that are really about individualism. And so I think having a relationship in this type of a culture makes that difficult. And it's not just us, the marriage rates for everybody is falling. It just is exacerbated in the African American community. But I think the mistake, and whether you get married or you don't get married, I think there's something powerful about being in long-term committed relationships with people, because it takes a lot of work. And I ain't saying nothing that's unhealthy, like you need to stay with people that abuse you. But I'm saying that if you fight through certain problems in your relationship, it can actually help you grow as an individual. Because rarely is it just that other person only, like causing trouble. It's you too. And really only in relationship are you really able to hold that mirror up to yourself and say, what role am I playing? But sometimes it's really easy to just bounce, like, oh, this person is X, Y, and Z, and not taking any accountability for yourself, and you just bounce, and you haven't really grown. But I think this is a very difficult culture that we live in. But the problem is, like, for us, let's just get real about money. Like, for us, we're already at the bottom of the economic ladder in this country. Our opportunities are few far in between. And so the strength that we have at this moment in time to combine two incomes in one household it has a lot of potential. But if we get caught up in this whole idea that we really don't need each other, I got my little piece, you get your little piece. If we bring those pieces together, you got a lot more, and you can survive some of the craziness that happens in the economy. Like, you might be good right now while the economy is doing all right on your own, but once that takes that turn, white people got enough wealth and money to sustain themselves through those types of situations. We don't. So we hella vulnerable for these economic changes, and that only makes it worse when you're a single parent or you're in a single relationship. But anyway, so that's my take. Whatever you choose to do, I think being in a long-term committed relationship, whether it ends up in marriage or not, is beneficial.
I think the media plays a strong role, particularly with teenagers these days. I don't listen to a lot of the music, but I get it through him. He works with children, and I see it on TV. And it's not cool in any way to be loving, to be warm, to be committed. Everything is, I ain't got time for you, or, X to the next, I can move on. So I think it's just been perpetuated so much in the media as well, to where we're not taught that, wow, you can have this partner and you guys can grow together and have something beautiful. I kind of think of it as an extension, like when you're a child, you have your parents and they're there for you and they take care for you and they're your partners. And as you get older, now I'm married, or even in a relationship, and this is my partner, and we go through life together, and we have commitments to each other, and we're accountable to each other, and we fight for things together, and we support each other. And I think it's innate in humans. I think we need that community. I think we need that love and that affection. And I think one of the reasons that the media tries to perpetuate, the individualism that you were talking about, is because you're less powerful by yourself. But united, you're a lot stronger.
I was gonna say, I think that our culture has some really toxic influences right now. When I was growing up, you like somebody, you ask them to go with you. You'd be like, we go together, right? And then everybody knew that you went with her or you went with him or whatever. And now it's like people don't even, boyfriend, girlfriend, that's not even a title now. It's like, we cool, we kick it, we talk, we associates, we friends, and it's like there's this this disconnectedness where you having sex with somebody and you doing all this other stuff, but you're not even connected to them in a way that's meaningful to yourself other than sex, right? So that's number one. The other issue is we have a culture that doesn't really support being in a relationship and struggling, right? You got to struggle. So when folks have their lists, without getting all into the, black women having more professional status and black men having a lot of factors, so you have a less of a pool, a partnership pool than you had after the World War II, where, folks could get jobs. And so you have an economic issue, but then at the end of the day, you have an issue with people struggling. So when you get in a relationship, you got to be able to struggle. You got to say, you know what? I don't like you right now. Or you don't even have to say that, but you know that and you're feeling that, and you be like, I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm going to go take a nap. I'm going to go make a sandwich and struggle through that for days and weeks before you decide I'm going to quit. And folks can be quick to say, I don't need her. I don't need him. And you got to be able to fight and struggle with that person, and so one of the phrases we learned when we were young in our relationship was, it's okay if one of you don't love each other at one point or another, right? Let's get real. As long as you don't both stop loving each other at the same time, then you got a problem. Another phrase, and I end with this, and my uncle
said that.
I forget. I think we read it. I don't want to take credit for it, but I can't even remember the source of it. But then the other thing, sometimes you get aphorisms. Sometimes people tell you stuff, and you just need to disregard it. But sometimes they say stuff and it resonates. And my uncle, he told me this. This is, and I know we're talking primarily heterosexual relationships. I want to name that. But my uncle, he told me, he said, when you get upset, for the men, and you feel like, man, forget this, I'm gonna leave. He said, that's when you need to shut up and listen, right? He said, now when she tells you you need to get your stuff and go, he said, you need to pack up. So, yeah.
I want to ask you all the last question. I'm gonna turn it over to the audience, let them ask some questions. How would you suggest that we begin to build healthy relationships in our community? Because I feel like it's a place that will help to sustain our families and then build up our communities, but we don't see it as much anymore. And I know there's some social factors that have contributed to it, some moral factors that have contributed to it, and I think some of you all have named some of those things. But how do we begin to build these relationships again where we actually like each other, or we're actually willing to struggle with each other, and begin to build healthy relationships for our children? What are some things you all would suggest?
I would suggest that we begin to acknowledge that in a lot of our lives, there's a lot of pain. You know, there's pain from, you know, as we grow up, there's pain, you know, there's molestation, there's all kinds of pain. So I think we have to acknowledge each other's pain, and then we have to work on being friends. You know, so like I walk from my job to the Malanga, for instance. So I count how many times I speak to people and how many people speak back, and there may be, you know, out of 10, I may get 2 people that'll speak back. Some of them will walk by and they can't believe you spoke, so they'll speak later. You know, like you walk by, like, did he speak to me? But we're not friends with each other. We can't look at each other and smile at each other. We can't look at each other and say, you know, how you doing today? Or you look nice today, or what have you, without thinking that there's something else that goes with it. So I think we have to start off by starting relationships with each other that are just platonic relationships, that we like each other, we can speak to each other. You know, we can, you know, I feel your pain in some cases. And to be able to talk about that pain in a secure, you know, kind of, I'm not, you know, this is between me and you kind of thing. You know, so I think, you know, we have to be that shoulder to cry on sometimes. So I think we have to just start developing relationships.
I think modeling it. Like, I was at the barbershop the other day and the whole crew was there and we hanging out, and they like, man, it's time to go already. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go home to my wife. You know, I'm finna go home to my wife. And I'm always talking about my woman. I'm always like, yeah, my woman, she cooking, and that's what I'm doing. What you doing this weekend? I'm hanging with my wife. You know, and making that dialogue cool in the places where we get together, where it's usually not. You know, they in there talking about these hoes, you know what I'm saying, and you know, but kind of dialing that down and bringing it back, like, hey man, you know, if you treat your woman like a queen, I'm offering advice to a youngster, like, hey, if you treat her like a queen, you might get a different outcome, you know, than her, you know, riding on you all the time, you know what I'm saying, and like, you know, so just kind of making the relationship thing cool again. It used to be like where there was rap songs in the mainstream on the radio, you know, like Father MC, If You Do For Me, you know what I'm saying, where it was cool to be doing for your woman. It was cool to have a partner. It was cool to have that sister on your side. And at the same time, you know, when I work with high schoolers that's transitioning into the world, I model that. I always talk about my queen. I refer to her as my queen. I always, you know, kind of check the young men as they're talking about their young ladies, referring to them as this and that, and just not check them, but just kind of remind them, you know, because I don't want them to get defensive, but just making relationships and black love cool, because that's what youngsters, that's what they gravitate towards, what's popular, what's happening, you know what I'm saying? If we have everyone else saying that this is the way you have to be, but the person that's in the flesh in front of you saying, hey, I'm happy, I'm finna go home and eat good and, you know, and enjoy myself because I'm with my wife and we don't have no drama. You know, if I tell the good sides of the stories, you know, like, hey man, I don't have to ask for permission to go to the barbershop, you know what I'm saying? You know, or nothing like that, then they're like, wow, you know, what does he have? I want that, you know, and it kind of stirs curiosity for that positive thing, that good energy, that good love. And that's my approach, you know. I'm not sure if it's that effective, but I think if I saw somebody modeling something that was good, I'd be more interested. Be like, okay, I want to know, you know, without telling too much, you know, about what's happening in my relationship, but at the same time, letting them know it's good to have that solid partner, and I think that works.
I would say, yeah, let's support each other, you know, and I think if we have friends in their relationships, support them. Ask them how the relationship is doing. Ask them how they're doing, and be supportive, right? And have positive presupposition and have a positive attitude towards relationships. I think, you know, for me and my wife, we constantly build each other up. You know, never stop saying, "You look good today. I like what you got on." You know, it works every single time. Never gets old. And it's genuine too. It's like, man, I love this sister, you know, and flowers, you know, just all the little romance, all the little stuff, you know, not even flowers, it just doesn't cost a penny, right? Complimenting people. And then this short piece, we're humans. We're attracted to a whole bunch of humans, even when we're in committed relationship. But the key piece is to be respectful, right? And so I used to work at the youth center, Youth Uprising, and every woman was my sister. So when the young brothers, like you said, modeling, would see a girl across the street and start hollering, I said, hey, that's my sister, blood. And they, Ms. Payne, that's your sister? And I'd be like, well, they are my sisters. No, man, you know, but it would just put them in the mind frame like, oh, shoot, that's somebody that's close to you that you respect, so I'm not going to disrespect them. And I got to give props to Master P. I just saw a little video where he was doing an interview, and he was talking about a female artist that just released an album, and the dude was like, oh, man, she got a fat ass and jeans or something. He said, hold on. I wouldn't disrespect your sister or my bad, you're related. No, but I'm down with her. And he just really like came back to that 3 or 4 times. He was like, I wouldn't disrespect a prostitute. And I was like, damn, I love him for that. Like he really broke it down. Like there's no reason men, we should disrespect women, period. If they're disrespecting themselves, they're disrespecting other women, there's no reason. If other women are calling them bitches and hoes, there's no reason as men, we should continue to call ourselves men from this day forward. Sorry, I got preaching. And allow that. And support that, and even if your partner's doing it, be like, you're gonna just disrespect the queens or the sisters or whatever, you know, language you use, just do it. Be courageous, be a man.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything folks have been saying, y'all. Just to be real, I mean, I think we're just in a really tough situation right now as a black community. I talked to our elders, and I don't think they've seen any type of disconnect between black men and black women like they're seeing now. And so what I think we need to do is recognize where that's coming from. The whole game, the whole system of Eurocentrism and white supremacist beliefs is to destroy the black family, period. That's been their game from day one, and they've done that in a lot of different ways. And so I see us now falling into it in a different way. I really think the prison industrial complex has a lot to do with the chaos in our community. A lot of our brothers get swept up off the streets on a daily basis and get sent away. Like there is no relationship building if you locked up. There is no relationship building if you in and out of counter. It doesn't happen that way. But we still carry on relationships, and we make commitments to women here and there, and we go away because we get caught up. And then there's just this whole push in the country in general about being free and independent and not being together. And I think we got to watch out for that because we can't really afford to do that, really. But I'll put it on our brothers, for real. Like, if we want black women, they're ready for us. And we have this whole mountain in front of us around struggle and oppression, and the only way we get through that is together. So I think we got to be prepared to do the impossible, because right now everything is dividing us around, you know, light versus dark, around men and women, around college educated, not college educated, around income, around job. I mean, there's so many divisive things in our community right now. It really is almost impossible for us to be united. I mean, everything is really working against us. So if you're gonna choose to be in a serious relationship with another black person, that's work. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy to be in a relationship with anybody, but think about everything that we're going through as a community. Everything that we've already went through is really difficult. And I think a lot of us choose to not engage on that level because this shit is hard. It's really hard to sustain a healthy black relationship when we got all of these other things telling us that's not the thing to do. Like you could be, the grass is greener over here. I mean, when we look on TV and we look in the media, that's the message that we're getting. The message that I was getting as a young black man is that you don't need black women. You can have all the black women you want and then marry a white woman. That's what you should do. And that's how you be successful. That's how you move up. And then the narrative to the sisters is these black men ain't shit. Like, excuse my language, but that's the narrative, you know, and it gets picked up. And we kind of end up fighting with each other all the time. And if we're going to really like exist in love amidst all of this stuff, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really difficult. And you couple that with the fact that we don't just come to this earth born into a situation that affirms our blackness. we all got these mental issues that we're dealing with, and then when you get in a relationship with each other, we're not even talking about it, right? So like a lot of stuff that we're experiencing, the negativity in our relationships and stuff that we're not even talking with each other about. So, I mean, for me, I think we just gotta really challenge systems of oppression that limit our, put us in that box, like you talked about in your class, the black box. And that's different for men and that's different for women, but we're existing in this black box that says that being in a committed relationship with another person of your black ethnicity is not possible. It's not even worth it, really. You look at the TV shows that are out now. I was having this discussion with my wife the other day. There's like not overrepresentation, but maybe of black people on TV. I mean, on channels that ain't never happened. Like, I mean, I ain't that old, but when I was growing up, Lifetime did not show black people at all. Period, none at all. VH1 never showed black people. Like, you couldn't see black people outside of BET. Now we're seeing us everywhere, right? But how are we seeing each other? Not in committed, functional relationships, right? We might see each other on screen, but like I think about the new series that's out right now. Like there's a lot of black women on TV, like Scandal, right? She's not in a relationship with a black man. How to Get Away with Murder. She's not in a relationship with a black man. Empire. He's in a relationship with a mulatto, basically, like a woman who's really, 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 really light. And the woman who's darker is Taraji P. Henson, and she ain't with nobody, you know? And these are all dramas. And then when we get a comedy like Blackish, okay, now you got, you know, some relationship, but still, she's very light as well. So, I mean, all of these things reinforce our subconscious to say, y'all not supposed to really be together. Like, it's not gonna work out, it's too hard. So, if you're gonna really make black love work, it's gonna take a lot of effort. But I really, really believe that it's the best thing for us, and that struggle that you go through won't go in vain.
Appreciate that. Give me a round of applause. I definitely want to thank you all for coming out, but I wanted to open it up to, you know, to the audience if they had any questions for the panel in terms of relationships or how to sustain them, or just even their personal advice. So I want to open up to the floor. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Before I get out of here, thank you guys, first of all, for sharing your stories and stuff like that. I appreciate it. It actually helped me. Some of the stories that helped me, I'm going to go back and use them in my relationship. But my question was, a few of you spoke about supportive communities helping you get through troubled times. What if you don't have that support? What if your family is not supportive of your relationship and her family is not supportive of your relationship, or she doesn't, or you guys, or one of you guys don't have a support system like that? Like, how do you suggest people like that get through conflicts if they don't have the family behind them, like some of you guys, a couple of you guys spoke about earlier? And that's whoever wants to answer.
I'd say, build some family. You know what I mean? So there's folks around. There's folks we around. You know what I mean? A lot of times, and we talk with each other about conflicts that we have. But the idea that you have the ability to talk with people, talk with some of the elders that are around, and just kind of put it out there as those things happen. So if it's not there, build it.
I think if you have a spiritual community, that could be helpful. There are also some online, there's a website I love called Black and Married with Kids. They give great advice, just little, tidbits here and there, what's going on, and when you hear other people talk about what they're going through, it makes you feel a lot more sane.
You're a scholar, so you're a student here. So there's tons of research. I mean, there's tons of anecdotes. Like my wife reads 10 magazines a week. And just read, and sometimes it's you need to you hear us tell stories, but you can also read stories that can be inspiring as well. And of course, the internet, you have access to that, getting black stories and black things where you're not necessarily interacting with a person that can give you that support as well, but you can also help get feedback from other stories.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother. Take care.
Thank y'all for coming out. My question is, how do you differentiate between your ego and then the time where you actually it's not good? You gotta get by that. I find that hard to, kind of hard to.
You gotta say that again. The last part. I think.
How do you differentiate between when it's your ego that's making you do too much in a relationship, or when it's actually time for you to separate, go do your own thing?
For me, the rule is if you can do everything that you can possibly do to work yourself out of that relationship, then do it. And what will happen is things will be revealed to you. In other words, if I've done all I can, you know, I'm not arguing no more, you know, all the things that she said that, you know, that I'm not doing, I did those things, you know, I humbled myself, I've done all the things I could do, then the door may be open to leave. But, you know, and you'll find out about yourself. The idea that we can just kind of walk out, you know, is too easy if you're going to have a relationship. Like my man said, it's work. So do the work. You know, once you've done the work, you'll be real clear whether it's your ego or not.
I think just asking the question is a great beginning part. Like when you're in conflict or when you're in a situation, like checking yourself first. Like check yourself, right? Like, is this my ego? You know what I'm saying? Like, or like, what is this really about? You know, try to really get to the root. Because a lot of times we argue about stuff, but it's something rooted deeper than that. You know what I mean? You like the dishes thing. It might be, oh, you know, but that's not really what the conflict is. It might be about I asked you something and you didn't do what I asked you, and I feel like you didn't hear me. You know what I mean? It might something. And when I was growing up, my parents never listened to me. You know what I mean? They always were overbearing, and you know. So a lot of the stuff that we do is hella deep. So I think just starting with that question, the fact that you can just question like, all right, am I tripping? Like, is this me? You know, or you know, what am I doing here? I think that's a great start.
Other questions? I kind of know a little bit about you. Thanks for sharing the stories. My understanding is that all you guys, both people work in the household. And so, acknowledging that as a given, how do you navigate what has been identified in the past as gender roles, in terms of who cooks, who cleans, those type of things? How do you guys navigate, negotiate, live through those processes, accepting the fact that you're both working at it and avoid the absolute relationship? So I'll be curious to see what your answers are.
Yeah, my wife told me when we were dating, she was like, yeah, if we split up, you taking the kids. That's on you, right? You know, just like so. I mean, it was, you know, it was just a way of framing things. But there's a division of labor, right? I do dishes. She does laundry. I do the lunch. You know, I set the lunch, wake the kids up. She does the doctor's appointment. You know, so it takes time and negotiation, but there is no, for us, man's job and woman's job, because we both work, we both bring home money, we both take care of the kids. Obviously, I can't birth children, can't breastfeed, although she tried to make me try. You know, so like we try to divide up everything that's physiologically possible, regardless of gender. And then, you know, the only time it's traditional is if we going out and I'm opening the door. She, oh, it's a special night. Oh, you gonna open the door for me? Okay, I'll go along with that. You know, and we do the traditional thing, like, you know, after you. But besides all of that pomp and circumstance, when it's time for business, that's where the ego comes in, where, you know, you want to go hang out, and it's like, well, I mean, we have to be in tune also when one partner is being overwhelmed, and it's like the house is dirty, and, you know, the other day I was sitting just relaxing, and she started folding clothes. I'm like, damn, I can't just sit here and watch you fold the clothes. Now I got to get up. It's like, help you fold the clothes. I feel like a damn fool sit up here and watch you fold all these clothes. So, you know, just you got to be mindful, you know, be aware of stuff like that. Good question.
On me, it's, so I can't, you know, I can cook, but I'm not allowed in the kitchen to cook. You know, like you was talking about cooking, can't touch the cooking. The cooking is so cold. But other stuff like, you know, there's tasks like taking out the garbage, you know, cleaning the bathroom, cleaning the kitchen. So there's a set of chores that I have. So these weren't said. These are things that I do better than anybody else does in the house. You know, so then you know, if the roof is leaking, I'm on the roof. You know, if a plug needs to be put in, or some plumbing needs to be done, I'm on that. Those are my skills. There's other skills. She can look at a late bill that happened in 1987 and look back in her books and find that bill. So there's certain things, paperwork and what have you, that's her. She's on task with that. So there's a certain task that she's stronger at, others that I'm stronger at, and then we just work it. And that stuff is, and I don't like to be told that to do that as a grown man. did you take the garbage out? You never had to hear that. You know what I mean? So I was always taught, you know, as a man, get your job done, get your work done, and you'll be okay. So
I'm gonna let y'all close that one out. I think that's cool. But I think it's a great question. I appreciate you asking it because it kind of goes back to something I was saying earlier. Like we're at a moment in history where one income ain't enough, right? So like I don't earn enough money to just support me and my wife. My wife don't earn enough money to support me and her. And we have a child. We have a young son who's like 20 months. So one income don't do it. You know, this ain't my grandfather's generation. So we both got to work. And so that means there's a certain division of labor that has to happen. And the thing that I would say is that it's been dynamic. And so like before, I used to work a lot more than she did. And so she would do a lot more cooking. Now, her schedule is not as flexible. I got a lot of control over my time. We work about the same amount of hours, but I can pick and kind of choose what hours I work and stuff like that. So now I have a lot more freedom in my schedule. So then that means a lot of things fall on me. So like grocery shopping, picking up my son from daycare, dropping him off, getting, you know, all of those types of things, washing. So a lot falls on me now because it's possible, you know, and then cooking food and stuff. So it just kind of goes with whatever our life situation is at that moment because there's work to be done. And when you're on a team, you do it. And the thing is, like, you can't be like, no task is less important than the other one, right? You know, that's how I did that. Oh, that's women's work and therefore not valued. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's women's work, and that's important. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, you doing the dishes. Oh, that ain't shit. You know, I'm over here fixing the plug. You know, like, nah, like we need lights and we need clean dishes. So they're both equally important. So I think whatever your division is, like what you're saying, it makes sense to do what you do best. You know what I mean? Like if my wife is hella dope at like putting stuff together, whenever we order something that needs to be put together, sure enough, she would do it. It just so happens I'm that guy. You know, when it comes to other things, like she actually tells me she enjoys doing the dishes. Like she says it's a relaxing thing for her. And that's unbelievable to me. I hate doing the dishes. And so at our household, she does a lot more dishes than I do. I do them, you know, because, you know, that's what got to be done. But she'll do them, you know what I mean? I just because that's what she want to do. So it ain't like, oh, she the woman. You'll do them dishes. You know what I mean? It's like, nah, she does that and I help out. You know, other things I do, she helps out. So I think you just got to find that dynamic balance because the truth is, we need both incomes. If it ain't no other group in America that need two incomes in a household, it's black people. We need two incomes. So when you got two people out here busting their butts out in this workforce, you got to figure some stuff out or be a fool. You know, you can be a fool and hold on to your grandfather's, you know, gender roles, or you can be liberated and have some new stuff.
Well, we are the grandfathers.
The grandfather's getting liberated. But I don't know if y'all want. I don't know if you. What?
I think, like Baba Shebe said, is just finding out what your strengths are. There are things that I am just better at. There are things that he is just better at. I can go to 5 stores in a day, cook dinner, and go to work. I cannot schedule an appointment to get my oil changed, but he will. So I let him do that, you know. So it's just about working those things out and figuring them out. You know, okay, what are your strengths? What are you good at? What takes you less time? What's on your way home from work? What can you fit into your day that's going to make it easier? For me, that's how it works.
Yeah, I just try to help out as much as possible. She's so amazing, you know, as far as like organizing stuff and pulling stuff together. And you know, sometimes, like I don't even know like a flight itinerary until it's time to go, you know. And, you know, I just know it's time to go. She's like, we flying tomorrow. Okay.
That's nighttime. You ain't even got to be concerned. No. You know what's going to happen. No.
Well, when it's time to pay for the tickets, you know.
That's that partnership. That's that partnership.
But we call ourselves Team T. We're a team. We look at everything like teamwork. We going to tag team this thing and get it done and make it happen. We're going to tag team life.
I'm here to go. I took my lunch break to be here. Long lunch break. So I'm going to work, but one, I just wanted to acknowledge that I hear like a lot of consideration. Like I took a lot of notes and I was doing Twitter updates and then people are like retweeting and like, thank you, that helped my life today.
Y'all trending.
Y'all trending right now.
Let's have black love trend.
Dishes. And something my grandma used to say when she was alive, that she would always ask her husband, what can I do to help you today? And even though none of you guys said that, it just sounds like you're automatically already thinking of what you can do to help your partner. And just the comments you made, Brother Q, about, you know, no task being greater than the other. What I hear about the consideration for your partner is that no partner is greater than the other. Like what Michelle said about, you know, would I divorce myself or would I break up on myself? What I would like to hear more about is how do you, because everybody has kids on the panel, how do you find time to like be with your friend when your children are always there and your children need your time and you're splitting time amongst work and whatever other things you do, and then to make sure that you're taking care of the children and doing family things? What do you do, or how do you find time to be with that partner again?
Microseconds. Kids head off to, and then it's like, all right, I gotta go in, I got a 9 o'clock meeting, or if I don't have a 9 o'clock meeting, I'll linger and stay in the bathroom and just chit chat, or if she's in the shower or whatever, just stealing those minutes. Like I could be on the computer, or I could be in the kitchen, or you know, and then you get real smart, because when the kids are there in the afternoon, they shut all that down, any type of communication. So you have to know the time that you have and prioritize. Like I'm gonna prioritize having a conversation with my wife today because I'm working late. I'm not gonna see her till 10 o'clock tonight. So I'm gonna take this 5 minutes now. And then you just know when you need to, and as weeks and months go by, say, babe, we need to take a day off and just disappear, right? And so we sometimes have to schedule that as well. Sick days, whatever you want to call it, weekday, kids at school, and it's us time. So you have to schedule it like you would a meeting.
Hi, my name is Ajari, and I had a question. What are some of the skills or techniques that you would teach your children to help them combat the attack on Black families and culture? Like I know Baba Chevere, you told me you would tell them the stories, the African stories that they used to tell back in Africa with the Nazi inspired. Did anybody else like to come in from their grandparents or their ancestors if they would like to share?
I know for me, it was every day, all day. Black history. My mom was also a professor, so you know, living with her was like being in school constantly. But you know, every moment was a moment for her to teach me about someone in Black history, and you got to know that history yourself too to be able to, you know, then give it. But taking them to Black events, showing them, you know, the drumming and the love and the joy and the happiness, and making them feel really, really good about the fact that this is who you are and this is what you come from, and you should feel proud about that. I mean, I feel like that's what worked for me and, you know, some of my family members, you know, Kwanzaa or, you know, just whatever it was. We were always celebrating Blackness.
Yeah, I kind of overkill it to where my son was pushing back like that. Okay, Black is great, but like, can we chill? Like, you know, so he really, like, he's in Freedom School. He's in all the programs that you know, he's like, just relax on it, you know. So it's also about knowing your child and providing, and then being responsive to what he's. So now I'm doing more listening and observing who he is and what he likes, and then trying to throw stuff his way like that. So subtle.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, it started early for my son. Like I just thought about my trajectory and how I didn't grow up with appreciation for Blackness. You know, I was very superficial, you know, appreciation, but not a deep appreciation, which to me is about African and Africanity. And so I just think about my son and trying to start him as early as possible. So like I just got him a djembe drum. I didn't touch my first djembe drum until I was about 25, 26. I didn't even know what it was, you know. But my son, in his memory, like if he grows up and like plays drums, I will be able to say, you've been playing drums forever. You know, like it's just a part of his identity. He has an African name. Like I gave my son a full African name. So like from birth, there's some intent there with him. And so he'll know, like, this is who you are. And we just constantly reinforce that, you know, through the actions. You know, I take him everywhere, like you're saying, like, I'm in the community, you know what I'm saying? He goes with me to Kwanzaa events. He comes with me to Ile School, which is where he'll go to school at. So, I just, you got to know it yourself too. You just got to embody it yourself, and then you can pass it on.
So it's just 2 hands in the back. And then come back up here. So let's take the young ladies in the back first.
Hi, I'm Anita. I didn't get your names. You look like a pastor. I'm not sure if you are or not. How is it when you're in a relationship, the woman is doing everything she can to make the man know that he's a king, that he's loved, but it seems as though he don't get it. Whether she's cooking, I'll cook, I'll clean up the dishes, I'll put the food away, I'll draw the water, all of that, but it's as if there's something missing there. And I'll talk to them about, my AFREM classes and the different Black love, but it seems like it's something missing. I can tell them I love them all the time. Before leaving, always kiss them. You never know, it might be your last time. So I'm trying to figure out what else could you do to let a Black man know that he's loved? When it seemed like you've done everything and it's something missing.
People always ask me how's the marriage going, how's things going, and my common response is I feel like a king. And it's not the food. It's we could be eating TV dinners every day and I would still feel like a king. It's not the fact that the first words that we say to each other is I love you, the last words. I think it's the fact that I feel like a king because I feel needed in some type of way. Like I'm almost like kind of like maybe like she said she couldn't see life without me, and I think that makes me feel really powerful. It makes me feel strong because she's investing a lot into me. And it doesn't have to do anything about the bills or my share of the housework. It's just that the love, and the time and the attention and the compassion I think that I give to you that that she kind of needs. It's kind of like a life support almost, and being that that's what makes me feel like a king. Is that the fact that I carry so much weight as far as emotion, as giving emotions and giving love and giving the things that make her happy. It's not the ring, it's not the nothing material, it's my time and presence that makes her feel appreciated and feel like a queen and reciprocate. It makes me feel, and reciprocate makes me feel like a king. So I think it's just the fact that me just being there and her loving me and makes me feel very powerful that I could deserve the love from her, who I value, and I think she's a queen. So I think that's to me, that's what it is. It makes me feel really powerful.
I would direct him to a support group because I think that you can get drained, and someone has to. I think if you're trying that hard and it's still not working, that sometimes it's a self-love that's missing. And so personally, I would say, hey, why don't you get together with these brothers? You go out and bond. You guys do some male building time, or get into a positive community where he can start to build his own self-esteem. Because what I would think is that is that self-love that's lacking.
And I feel your pain, and I watched what you described was my grandfather. So I watched him and my grandmother. He was the kind of person that, never give a compliment. That, the only thing he would do is when he got ready to leave, he'd go, and, for a kiss, and work on the dots. And he didn't really change until she passed. And then, we could really see how much he really loved her. So, keep doing what you're doing, you know, and give it the best you got. And I agree also is that he may need to be in another kind of circle, you know, with other men that he can share things with and maybe open up a little more, you know, and you know, like he said, it's part of the baggage. It's part of the baggage of being in this country. It's part of the baggage of not really being in situations where we're nurtured and loved, you know, from the time that we're young all the way up.
Yeah, I would say, I know sometimes the therapy thing is hard for brothers. So if you say that, he might be like, whatever, I ain't doing that, blah, 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 right? You might have to really take some poking with some pride in. But I think if you haven't already, just help him try to find himself, you know, ask him questions about himself, like, because he's probably not asked these questions about his own stuff, like, you know, babe, this is what I like about you, but what do you like about you? Like, what are your character? What do you think are the best things or the things that you do the most? You know, I don't know if he's a big talker or whatever, but, you know, asking questions about him that can help him understand himself, because I would agree. It has to be, you know, you got to love yourself in order to reciprocate love. You got to. And to love yourself, you got to know yourself, right?
Okay, so for you, sis, you said that you had dealt with, you know, dudes and randoms, of course, before you came across him. Conversation was cool. You thought y'all was vibing, and then, you know, you got that, our birthdays are kind of close. Let me text him. Happy birthday, thanks. Okay. Now me, I know off top, thanks. Okay. Well, I might keep his number, but I'm going to just pass it up in my phone, right? And then you hit him again, right? And then he was still dry. You know what I'm saying? So what made you actually say, okay, I'm gonna continue to pursue him? Because like by you pursuing, you got him. You got the man. You know what I mean? And it's like he got you, and it's like you got him. Like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, just as a woman myself and dealing with all the different random guys that I've dealt with, I've never dated outside of my race, but now lately other races have been trying to come on. But I'm so black, you know, I'm like, I love black men. I love everything about them, you know. I love their big comings and their shortcomings, you know what I'm saying, regardless of anything. And it's like, when I'm being approached by these other races, it's like, okay, yeah, thanks, And then when I'm approached by a black man, I'm being approached like, oh yeah, little mama, what's happening? But when I have like a random race, he's interested in my hair. He's like, oh, your hair, so how do you get it to stay like that? Rather, a black dude's like, oh, you need to get a weave. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how do you like try to toss that in the back, you know, throw that in the furnace, you know what I mean? And disregard the negative energy that you receive from black men, you know what I mean, on a daily basis. And then, you know, go hard for the one that you're like, oh, our energy is good. Oh, well, you got a chick? Okay, well, we can still be cool. Oh, you gonna leave it for me? Well, I don't really know if that's cool, but, you know, you stuck with it and now you have him. So, like, just how did you let it go? Well, I think specifically with him, it was just my intuition. It really was just something inside. I can't say what exactly it was, because I did toy with, you know, reaching out to him again, but something just pushed me to do it. So I think developing your intuition is a good tool. I'm very strong on that, and that's, you know, paying attention, being present, meditating, you know, listening to your inner self, because you have an inner guide that talks to you, but we're so cut off from that it's hard to hear, because it will tell you yes and no, and, you know, go this way or don't go that way. As far as the negativity, I know what you're talking about, and it's painful and it's sad, but not all brothers are like that, you know. I think I grew up in the South, and I find personally that men who grew up in the South and on the East Coast tend to usually be more family oriented and a little, they are just kinder and warmer. I think men who are in education settings where they're really trying to learn something, they're going to school, or they're in spiritual settings, whatever that may be, a mosque, a church, or something like that, usually have a better mentality. So I think you got to look in better places too. Yeah, but I mean, more than anything, it's just, all I can say is it was just my intuition.
We're going to take this question, and then this is our last question. We'll close out.
Thank you for coming. I just wanted to get back on what you said earlier about both spouses working first, but how do you like spend time with your child, like as they get older and they be more busy and go to school, like how do you spend more time with them, like, because I know like my father, for instance, like when he got off work, he was tired, and I came home from school and I just like did something else, like I was just on the computer or something, just playing video games, or go out. Like how do you try to spend time with them, and like while you like work?
For me, mine's older now, but as Cheryl said earlier, is you plan it. It's a plan, just like you plan anything else. Plan a vacation, you plan anything. You plan for how much time you're gonna spend with that child. And if you're big like us, we had to plan for years. So it's make the plan and make the plan work. And that means hours. You have to look at the hours. How much time we have to spend. And it's true. Between 9 and 5, or we get up at 5:30 in the morning. So between that time, you really only get to spend a short period of time. So you have to plan that out. So those days are spent with the child. And then with mine, she's like, I take Saturday, you take Sunday. So there would be a whole day that she would just spend with my daughter, and like on Sunday would be the whole day we would spend together. So that way, it gave her time to time by herself, and then time by myself, and then time that we had together. So it's a plan.
And I think the other piece is too is like when we look at our parents, I think it's important for us to know a lot of our parents did the best they could with the circumstances they were dealing with. And even in that, sometimes it caused us harm, or sometimes it impacted us. And I think that, as we mature, we can do things differently because we have like almost a new life to start with in our own. And I can say, like, I work a lot. Like, I probably work like 50 to 60 hours a week. When I knew my son was coming into this world, I made a conscious choice. That's not going to be my reality. I didn't want his reality to be that my son is going to remember me not being there. And so I work less, I still work a lot. And sometimes the folks that know me know that he roll with me. And if you see me on camera, he'll be with me. Like literally when he could fit like in that holster, he was in that holster and I was lecturing at times. It's happened. But you have to make that choice. And if it means I get less sleep, then I'm gonna be with him.
One of the things I do, I have a couple different gigs and I got real efficient. Right, I went to Laney here, there, got okay grades. When I got my kids, I went to graduate school and did not waste a dime, not a minute. Never missed class, got A's. So whenever I'm not with my family, I'm not playing. So I got real shrewd about my time, and so. Being here was a commitment and an honor because of my relationship with Professor Seals. But I will be honest, we will spend hours on the weekend on screens, coexisting, but just like you just need that time. But I took him to the doctor this morning and, it was just like, come on, Dad, because you're the doctor, so you got to ask those questions. He's 10, and it's just the most uncomfortable time you could imagine for a 10-year-old boy with his daddy at the doctor, his daddy asking all them questions, right? So then when that was over and we were waiting, I said, son, what do you want to do with your dad over the next couple days or this week? And he was like, we'll see a movie. So it's like, boom, okay, we're going to, I'm going to make the commitment to see a movie. So having that interaction and doing stuff that he wants to do, and so that I'm not spending all my days with him, but he will have that memory of doing stuff with his dad, doing stuff that he wanted to do as well.